Everybody, it's politics as usual. It's that time of year again, and I'm delighted to welcome back today to be with us as Stephen Hall, I'm sorry, and he is a candidate for the state senate from the umpteen counties.
Worcester, Hampden, Hampshire, and Middlesex.
Okay.
Yes, 28 towns.
28 towns. It's got to be either, if it isn't the largest, it's got to be one of the biggest.
It is just barely under the Western Mass region.
Okay, and so now the question is, how's the campaign going?
It's going well. I'm having a great time. I've been meeting a lot of people, and they tell me, the politicians tell me that it's going to be grueling. I'm going to get tired of it, but I've been doing this since May or June. And I'm still having a good time, meeting a lot of people and just having fun doing it.
Well, that's great. That's great. Now, having met a lot of those people, let's chat about what are they telling you? What are people, you're on the street, you're talking to people, you're introducing yourself, you're getting groups together, and people, will give you ideas and will share with you their concerns. What are some of the concerns you're hearing?
Well, certainly one of the big things I'm hearing is about the sanctuary state. I mean, people are not thrilled about the fact that some of our legislators, and my opponent, is supporting making Massachusetts a sanctuary state. And they're for legal immigration, but this illegal immigration just has to stop, and we got to put a stop to it. And I know at the police station, for example, they tell me that it's frustrating that people come in and they know they're going to reoffend, but yet they have to release them at this point. So there's certainly hearing about that. Certainly the tolls, the talk of the toll booths on all the roads now is really troubling. I mean, I think we have an attack on our working folks, and it's about time that we start looking for those folks, understand that they are the lifeblood of Massachusetts, but they're not a never-ending source of revenue.
Well, I'll tell you a story. Now, I can speak honestly because I've been traveling on it since it was built and opened in May of 1957, was the Massachusetts Turnpike. And it was controlled by 5 members appointed by the governor called the Massachusetts Turnpike Authority. And they were paid $25,000 a year, and they used to meet once a month. And that road was impeccable. They kept it in tip-top shape. And then the government, by the way, my old saying, nobody has ever said a government knows how to run a government, let alone trying to run a business.
Or a business, yeah.
And the business is the biggest business in Massachusetts, happens to be the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Exactly, yeah.
We see Governor Baker, by the way, and I give kudos to him because he is a businessman and he's running it like a business. Having said that, the minute MassDOT took over the Massachusetts Turnpike, it is a nightmare. If you've driven on it lately,
I drive on it every day.
There's potholes. You go in that middle lane, you're dodging potholes. and the problem is,
a
lot of the cars now have those low-profile tires, so there's no gap between the rim and the tire, the base of the tire, and you hit one of those potholes, and it's bang, and, I'm saying to myself, and they charge for that. Now, I'm not against the tolls, don't get me wrong. But I am arguing that then they've got to maintain that road.
Right. But I would argue we wouldn't even have to charge the tolls if we were able to reel in the cost there. New Hampshire does it for 1/4 the price of Massachusetts. It's colder up there, or at least a little bit colder. Yet how do they do it for 1/4 what we're paying for our roads here, our state roads?
Well, first of all, let me share with you. When the Massachusetts Turnpike was built, opened in 1957, the promise was that they took out a 20-year bond, and when the bond expired, there'd be no tolls.
I remember that. Yes.
And so 1977 came and went a long time ago.
Yeah.
And the only thing we've done is taken out the toll booths.
Right. And barely saved any money doing it. So there's way too much government, way too much bureaucracy, and that business of government is just way too big. We've got to be able to reel that in, and that's one of my goals, and that's what people are telling me, that is they're tired of how big government is and tired of the government in their lives.
I'll tell you another area, and it would be a miracle if you could ever succeed. Do you know the biggest single ripoff in the It's gouging. If a private company did it, everybody would be railing up in arms, is the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles, who charges $50 and $60 and $70 and $80 for a number plate.
Right.
And that plate, because I used to be there,
Right.
those plates cost about $2. They're made by Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. They come in blank, and it says Massachusetts. It's on the seal, which is a reflector. And they go to the prison, and they stamp the numbers, and they paint them through a little roller. They last almost 30 years, those white plates.
Right, right.
Those are now 25 and 30 years old, okay? We still have people with green plates that the registry should have stopped years ago.
Right, right.
Okay? You can hardly read some of the old green plates.
I've had my plates for a long,
the
long
old
time.
green
yeah.
plates. But the new ones, those white plates, and every 2 years, you have to pay $100 to get them.
Right,
And
right.
and if you have a vanity plate or a low number, it's $80. That's stealing money. The problem is it goes into the general fund, and there's no legislator that's willing to say,
right.
hey, wait a minute.
Right.
And it's the same with driver's licenses. It's a little camera that takes a picture.
Right.
It's $4. We charge $75.
Right. There, it goes on and on and on. All
Right.
the different fees and surcharges and the sales taxes and the income tax and
Oh, yeah.
tolls. It goes on and on. And we don't have a revenue problem in Massachusetts. We have a spending problem. And the answer now is we want to raise the taxes on the rich, our so-called rich.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Same thing happened in New Jersey, in California, and in Connecticut. Is those millionaires are going to pack up and leave us with a huge mess. I am terrified.
Even if they stay, they'll funnel the money to Curacao or the Bahamas, and launder it out of
Right.
and they suddenly won't be millionaires.
It never works. And Connecticut is a perfect example where the companies are packing up and leaving. And one of them last week announced they're moving to Massachusetts, which they might be in for a heck of a surprise if we pass the millionaires tax.
Well, but the tragedy is that I think you just touched on it, Stephen. Is it's a spending problem.
Right.
We just can't resist. And one of the sad parts, a lot of people don't realize, the annual state budget is something like 75 to 80% done. You can't touch it. Those are the pensions, insurances,
Right.
And again, I'll tell you another problem. And I understand it goes back to the unions and negotiation. I got it. But a private business could not survive on the generosity of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Right.
With 4, 5, 6, and 7 week vacations. We just had a commander of the Massachusetts State Police, okay, under the gun because he told a trooper.
He got caught.
Changing something to help a judge.
Right.
Okay. He gets $235,000 a year pension for the rest of his life.
Right.
And all of a sudden, because he's accrued all this quote unquote vacation time, sick leave time, funeral time, etc., and we pay him another $300,000 for that.
Right.
Now look, most businesses, if you don't use your time, at the end of the year it goes away.
Right.
And it begins again January 1st. Not the Commonwealth.
Right.
And those are the things that the average person says,
Right.
what?
They should not. The police, I want to take care of our police. They work very hard. They are risking their lives every day. And you see we watch the news every day.
Right.
I'm not going to criticize. I'm not going to criticize the police.
But I'm not criticizing it, but it's because it's not.
Right.
He just did what he's entitled to take.
Right.
It's the system
The system
that says he can continue his vacations and all those days for as long as he's on the force.
Right. It's the other folks I'm concerned about. Why did they get more holidays than us? Why do they earn more money than us?
That's right.
It's surprising. The governor, I believe, I can't remember what number it was, but I was shocked at how far down the system he is for rate of pay.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I had the number for you, Dick.
It's amazing how many people make more money than the governor.
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, hundreds that make
Right.
more than the governor.
Right.
And they, like you say, they have better benefits than all of us.
Well,
we've got to reel all this stuff in.
Right.
We cannot continue to take this
well,
away
we
from
just had,
taxpayers.
and I know you're protecting the police, but we just had a terrible scandal on the Turnpike. Well, we had police officers putting down for time that they didn't work.
Right, I did see that, yes.
And,
yes.
and that's not right.
Right.
You know, they put a badge on and says they're going to uphold the law.
Yeah, that's stealing.
That means them,
That's stealing, yes, exactly.
okay?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to pick on them.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just that was the last thing I saw
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Channel 5 Investigates.
Yeah, that's
you know?
stealing, right,
And but it's not just them. It goes on and on
Right,
and
right.
on. And for some reason, the little guy is paying the bill.
Right. That has to stop. I think that has to stop, and we've got to go back to. I mean, look at New Hampshire, where they do it with so much fewer taxes. The costs are so much cheaper to maintain their roads, and it works. We need to model our government after something of that sort, and
Well, they even have a legislature that only works.
it's a part-time legislator.
Part-time
yeah,
legislature.
Yeah, part-time legislator.
Yeah.
So I would love to see. I hear about term limits as well. People would love to see term limits. People are tired of the career politician.
But you know something? Here's the tragedy. I ran for president back in 1976.
No kidding.
And I argued about term limits. And somebody got up at a forum I was doing, and he says, Mr. Vaughn, we already have term limits. The term is a 2-year term. Anytime you don't want someone, just vote them out.
Right. But
The problem is, if you put term limits in, all you're doing is taking the pressure off the voters. And it's the voters who should put people out of office.
Right.
Somebody who's been in office for 25 or 30 years, get them out of there.
But the playing field isn't equal either.
No.
The incumbents have a better chance and can get their message out better than any of us.
Let me share with this. And it's one of my big pet peeves about government. And it doesn't matter whether you're an R or a D or an I. The ins protect the ins because the ins don't want the outs in.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And they're all in bed together. And they work together and they're buddies and they protect each other. Okay? And it doesn't matter whether they're an R or D. Okay? The ins protect the ins because the ins don't want the outs in.
Right.
And you're an out right now.
Right.
Okay?
I'm an out right now.
And the ins will protect the ins.
Because I have new, fresh ideas. And I'm sure I can go in there, as I do in business. I'm a nursing home administrator
Yeah.
and nursing
Yeah.
home consultant by trade.
Yeah.
And part of my job is to go in and see where money is being wasted.
That's right.
And where I am now, for example,
Well,
I've gone in-
if you get elected and your job is to find out where money's being wasted, you're going to have a field day in
it should be,
Massachusetts.
it's probably going to be very
Now,
easy.
the question
Yeah.
is whether you're going to be able to stand up and tell everybody
Yes, yes.
what's really going on before they call you aside and say, hey, quiet.
I have never had a problem. I'm not about getting along. I'm here to do what's right for the citizens of Massachusetts. I'm not in this for a long-term job. I'm in here to try to do the right thing. And that's what got me excited about this is I don't like what I see going on in healthcare, for example. Healthcare.
Let's talk about
Okay.
that because let me tell you something. You can't live today without health care. Okay?
That's correct.
And I know, and it's awful. I take pills, for instance, okay? I can go down to Walmart and I buy my pills through my little RX card, and I probably pay 12 cents a pill or 15 cents a pill. One of them is lisinopril, okay? It's about 12 cents a pill, if that. I go to the hospital for 3 days, and I can't bring my own pills with me.
Right.
They supply the pills,
Right.
but they charge me $1.80.
Right.
And when I questioned that, what is this medication bill? Well, we have a pharmacy, someone's got to bring it up to the ward, then the nurse has got to give it to you. Why am I paying for that? Why can't I bring my own pill, give me a glass of water, and I'll take it?
I'll tell you why. Because of government regulations. It's
I'm
not
sure.
the hospital.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's the government regulations.
I'm sure. But the point I'm making is,
Yeah.
if everybody's got you take any medication,
Yeah.
then you got your own pills, right?
Yes,
And you
yeah.
have them all the time. You take
Yeah.
them every morning,
Right,
whatever
right,
it is.
Right.
You go into a hospital, they won't let you take that. You got to buy their pill.
But it's not because the hospital says no. It's because the government says no.
Then it's got to be changed.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's got to be changed. Now, the hospital, they got their hands in the cookie jar too. Don't get me wrong. You know, because I've had situations where I have Medicare and I have additional health care that I buy on top of it, pay for it myself.
Right.
So I want to make sure I'm covered. There's always, you go to a doctor, there's always, I got a bill one day for $5.12 because that's what that how much was left on the thing.
Right.
And I sent them the money. First of all, I got the $5, but I wrote them a stinging letter and said, I said, it's not about good health care. It's not about your hospital being number one. It's not about anything but the last dime.
Right.
You know, and I was so tempted to put in a bunch of dimes with 2 pennies, you know, just to be a clown.
Right.
But anyway, but so it's really a problem, and every year it goes up. You've never seen it go down.
Right.
Every year they go up another $5 or $10 or $15.
It's going up for the private sector because what's happening is the federal government and the state are reducing what they're paying the hospitals and nursing facilities where most of the rehab's taking place. They're reducing what there's no other place to get it from the private folks.
Yeah.
Insurance companies, same deal. The accountable care organizations, we're all in a particular group. We don't know it, but they've chosen us for a group, and what they're paying is going down as well. They're also penalizing for return to hospitalization. People don't realize that. So the hospitals and skilled nursing facilities aren't rolling in the dough right now. It's estimated that 3 out of 4 nursing facilities right now are running in the red.
I've had a talk. I chatted with a gentleman recently who has a facility, and he brought up a good point. He said, we would love not to have insurance. We would love to have everything private pay. I said, really, why? He said, because I'll tell you why. Sir, if you come into my facility, I got nothing to say about you. Your insurance company will tell me that you can stay 6 days or 16 days, and you'll have this kind of medication, and you'll get this, and you'll get that.
Right.
And when they think you should be out of here, they tell me to throw you out of here.
Well,
even if you're not ready to go.
You were absolutely right. Even if the numbers say you're such and such an age, and you've been here for that long, that's it. You've got to go. I've even been spoken to about someone who came into our nursing facility who had stage 4 cancer and decided that they weren't going to fight their disease. And the hospital called us in because they're being fined with this return to hospitalization rate. I was called in because this person had changed their mind, decided to fight their disease. And they wanted to know, we were threatened we weren't going to get any more customers because our folks are changing. They're saying, what are you telling your customers? That's the kind of stuff that's going on behind the scenes that really disgusts me. Is healthcare really expensive? Yeah, it's really expensive. But I think the consumer needs to know what's going on and what's going on with their insurance companies. But while all this is happening, we've got these huge insurance rates that are skyrocketing and really affecting everyone's wallet.
Well, you know, we're finally starting to fight some of the pharmaceutical companies. I take certain medications. Now, this company that provides this medication, because they have a 5 or 6 year deal where nobody else can, you know, make it.
Well, that's a patent.
And so it used to be 5 years. I think now they gave them 7 years. They can protect it. But it doesn't matter. The point is, they make millions of those pills every day. Millions.
Right.
Okay? And they charge $28 a pill or $32 a pill. You can tell me anything you want. It ain't costing them $38 to make that pill.
Well, I think it's a little more complicated than that. I don't want to defend the pharmaceuticals, but they love to blame the pharmaceuticals. From a federal point of view, and we're not talking, I'm running for state government, but there's an issue with the Food and Drug Administration, and there's an issue with the whole patent process. It takes a long time.
I got it. And I understand all the research and development. I got that.
Yeah.
But you know what I also know? When I see an ad on television, okay, that they've been whining and dining a doctor, and I see an ad on television that runs and runs and runs and runs at probably $8,000 or $10,000 a pop, okay?
Right.
Think how they could reduce the price of that pill if they didn't market it. Think about it. And the point is, and then they have this like beautiful lady running through the woods, okay? And then they tell you, if you take this pill, you could die.
Right. There's a lot of side effects.
All the, yeah.
Yeah.
And you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so
I
I'm
get
sitting
you.
there, and I'm saying, I've seen this ad 8, 10 times. It's on every morning
Right,
on the morning news. That company could reduce the price to the consumer if they knocked off the marketing, because it's distributed by doctors. I can't go into the pharmacy and get the pill.
They want you to ask. They want you to ask for it. The other thing that's occurring, and I see, for example, in Massachusetts, folks blaming the opioid crisis on the pharmaceuticals. I can tell you that the opioid crisis partly due to an unintended consequences by the federal and state government pushing for pain meds. In the hospitals and nursing facilities and everywhere else, we've been taught and we've been told that your folks better not be in pain. If people are reporting pain, you better be hitting them up with drugs. And we're cited if people are not hit up with those drugs. Now they're all complaining that we've created this opioid crisis. The pharmaceuticals have created this opioid crisis.
I think Massachusetts is suing them.
It's baloney. The legislators, the regulators, the bureaucrats, in my opinion, have created this crisis. Every time something's passed, every time the bureaucrats and the government tells you, well, we're going to do it this way, there's always this unintended consequence. And we've got to think about every time we pass a law, what are those? People aren't thinking about what are those consequences.
But you know, Stephen, something just dawned on me. You're in a very, very unique position to seek this office, because you bring with you an expertise of consulting,
right,
and operating,
right,
and managing,
right,
extended care facilities,
right,
and elderly visit. And this country, I mean, started 5 years ago. Every single month in the United States of America, 10,000 people turn 65.
right.
And we have, in Massachusetts, I think it's next year we reach it, or the year after, we will have more people over 60 than under it.
Right, right.
Okay?
It's a huge population.
It is a huge, huge dilemma.
Right.
And it's not going to go away. It's only growing.
Right.
But you bring a perspective, and you can stand up, and they can't kid you. They can't tell you,
I
hey,
know
buddy,
I know what's going on.
I've been there. I ran a facility, and I know they tell me to kick the guy out when he shouldn't go out.
I've seen it. I've seen it. The other thing that's happening is we have in Massachusetts, we have a huge, I mean, it is a staggering shortage of healthcare workers. We have, matter of fact, we bring in folks from other countries into Massachusetts, from Haiti and parts of Africa, legal immigrants, not your dreamers. Your dreamers
Right.
aren't doing this, but we're talking about legal immigrants come here and do the work that Americans don't want to do. CNA work is very tough. Nursing work is very tough. We have people doing that. But on the other hand, we have a mass health connector system in the Medicaid system that penalizes people if they work too many hours or if they earn too much money.
Yeah.
So what's happening is we're keeping our folks down, again, unintended consequences. We're keeping our folks because they're afraid to take that leap up and work too many hours. So I have so many people who want to work part-time, they're working part-time because they're afraid to lose their government benefits. We need a bridge to get them to full-time employment.
But hold on. You know, one of my things my dad used to say until the day he died, son, what the hell ever happened to common sense? Now, let me tell you what common sense tells Dickie. Why don't we have a plan for mass health that if you work so many hours, you get this plan? If you work these many hours, you pay an additional $10 a month or $20 a month, and which they can now afford because they just added 12 more hours to their work week.
Exactly.
And they can afford the $10.
It is,
or they can afford the $20. And then if you want to work full time, you pay another $20, and you can have math health extended. Hello?
It is so, it's just common sense. The governor actually has proposed something similar to that. But currently we have a system where if you earn this much, you're cut off completely.
Yep.
So people,
You
they're
can't
not
even buy
doing
it.
They're not doing it because they're
You
lazy.
can't even buy it.
They can't afford to make that leap. We need a bridge to that, just as you're saying, to full-time employment.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
That's right. It goes back to the insurance thing.
Right.
You have 1,000 to 2,000. You go 1 year. 2,000. You wreck a car. It's 5
Yeah,
years or whatever
yeah.
it is. It's easy.
It's so simple.
And it makes sense.
Yes.
And so you have a mass health program that's an excellent program. You earn this much money, you can't even buy it. Wait a minute. Well, what if you had a deal where you can get it, but you pay a little extra for it because it's still cheaper than $900 a month for Blue Cross Blue Shield? You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
that person who can work those extra hours then has the revenue to pay the extra $20 a month.
And the tax goes,
And then
tax
Mass
revenue
Health
goes up.
Mass Health is now taking in more dollars. So
Right.
they got, I mean, hello.
And the other thing, and I don't know if we spoke about this last time, but the other thing that is happening is we have all these departments. In healthcare, for example, you have a department that hands out the revenue because a lot of in Medicaid is one of the biggest
Yeah.
payers for hospitals
Right.
and nursing facilities. So you have one group that's handing out the money, and then the money they hand out is taxed. So there's another department taking in that tax money back from the money they just handed you
Yeah.
and collecting it. So you've got more people having to work to figure that out, and
Yeah.
the CPAs to figure that out, and you've got the folks on the government side. And then you have in Massachusetts, one of the few states, like one of two states that do this, is we have to submit what's called an MDS to the federal government. That's where the star rating comes in. In Massachusetts, there's called a Management Minute Questionnaire, or MMQ, which is a different assessment that the nurse has to do. You have to have a different nurse doing this and working through all this paperwork. And then you have another department in the state government who go out and does that assessment on those, and they decide whether or not you really deserve that money or earn that money. It's the bureaucracy. It's a monster. It's got to be reeled in. It's crazy.
Right. Oh, there's no question. There's no question. And like I say, in this simple conversation that you and I are having today, I said to myself, hey, wait a minute. Here's a guy they can't kid.
Right. True.
Here's a guy that's been on the road. Hey, my hand is up. I've been on that road.
I've seen it, and that's what got me into this, because I've seen enough. I'm just so tired of it.
Yeah.
And
I think the sad part, and there really is a sadness, in the final analysis, it really is simple common sense to solve a lot of these problems. And that's the biggest problem we have, is we spend more time calling each other names and pointing fingers at each other rather than sitting down and saying, hey, Steve, how do we make this work?
right.
How do we get this done?
I tell the story, and I tell a shortened version when
Right.
I'm out campaigning. And teachers tell me the same thing. Teachers say the system is so convoluted. We know how to fix it, and we know how to save money, and we know how to educate the kids better, but no one wants to listen to us. And I hear that so often. You ask me, that's what I'm hearing on the trail, is they just have to stop telling us what to do and start listening to us. We know how to fix it.
Even that, and we got about a minute left, but even that, you have a lot of these towns, and we all live in a town or a city, that the legislature in Massachusetts will mandate something, and then they won't put up the money.
Right.
They tell you got to do it, and if you don't, they fine you.
Right.
But then in the meantime, and my last pet peeve is somebody who works for our government gets themselves in trouble, and the government says they're on paid administrative leave. Really? The guy, you just gave him a free vacation, and you're going to pay him?
Right.
And he's out on paid administrative
We'd
leave.
get fired.
And he's thrilled. He sits out there for 8 months, picks up another job on the side while he gets his paycheck every week. That's got to be looked at and said, hey, wait a minute, if you're going to punish the guy, then punish him.
Right.
Put him out for half his pay or a quarter of his pay.
Right.
But anyway, I digress. Steve, as usual, it's great to have you back, and we'll see you again soon, because I love to find out, and you bring it to us, what people are talking about on the campaign trail, because, it goes back to the people, for the people, of the people, by the people. You know, it's still the people.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And I tell people all the time, you're not in the senatorial business, you're not in the government business, you're in the people business. And the sooner the legislature remembers that they're in the people business, I think the better off we're all going to be.
Exactly.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Dick.
Great to have you. See you soon.
Sounds good.
There you are, folks, and other conversations with